And here we are, yay!
Yay! Hi.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here with you. I'm with Dr. Ann, beaming into us from New Zealand, where it's Sunday.
Yes, I'm in your future, everybody.
Oh, that's right. I always ask her, what's it like in the future, you know?
Well, it's sunny today, so that's hopeful.
Well, that is hopeful. That is hopeful. Very hopeful, yeah. And so Garnet's here, and he's coming in from the UK, so it's the evening there.
Hi,
and we have Tea Garden Chicken here. So thanks for being the first two people here. We're glad you're here with us today. Yeah. Dr. Ann and I, it must be almost a year. Yes? Has it been a year?
Oh, it's over than that. You mean since we caught up last? I don't know. It feels like infinity. There's so many things going on that.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. And well, Dr. Ann lost a family member. She had to make multiple trips back home here to the United States, and yeah, just really lots of BS that she's had to put up with.
That's making it light. Yeah.
That's making it light. Yeah. Anyway.
All good though.
Yeah. Hi, lovely member, and Vicki. Thanks for being here.
Hey.
Yeah. So Dr. Ann and I, we have conversations as two spiritual academics. And we've talked about Chat GPT, and we'll probably talk about it again some point. We've talked about some other crossing over of science and spirituality. We've talked about books that we've read
academics together. Academics, like, you know, the bridge in between and understanding, because I think they help yield deeper understanding.
Absolutely. And Dr. Ann is a doctor of education in New Zealand, where she does research, and I love it because nobody else does research. Everybody just
my other side.
Yeah, they just look up AI and they say, "Oh, here it is." Yeah. So, so it's wonderful to have you back, my dear. I asked her if we could please talk today about anti-intellectualism, and so we're going to attempt to talk about it, but then maybe lend some lighter look on it, so that we don't leave too depressed.
Well, exactly. Yeah. I mean, really, I hope in my heart, when we look back on this time and we have time to really digest what's happened, it'll be like, wow, think about how much change we've gone through, and hopefully positive. I know it sounds Pollyanna-esque, but I mean, you know, you got to have some joy and hope in there somewhere.
You do have to have it. You do. No, you'd be too depressed, and why live? I mean, it can get to that point for some people. It really can. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So hi, Connie, and hi, Edward. And we're really glad to have you here.
Thank you.
So the really interesting thing is that if somebody told me yesterday, I think it was Valerie from Illumination Portal, who does astrology, that every 80 years, there's a civil war, some kind of a war. And the last one was in the 1940s. You know what I mean? I know we've had other ones, but you know, the last one we had a lot to do with anti-intellectualism built in, and we saw that with Hitler trying to get rid of that's why the scientists and everything left the country, so that they wouldn't be killed, you know.
Well, a lot of the Americans pinched him with Project Paperclip or whatever it was called.
Right. Yeah Absolutely.
And then also Stalinist Russia, that was also a period that you could argue was that.
Right. Yep.
And
and then McCarthyism in the United States in the 50s.
Yes, absolutely. That was and that wasn't too far away. I have friends that were really, their parents were heavily impacted in that, like in the LA area.
Yeah, that's
And
right. Yeah.
I'm sure, some of our mutual friends, Aley, they who are from the LA area probably had
Mhm.
their
Yeah.
family impacted
The
by that.
grandparents or something. Yeah, their parents were,
Mm,
especially if
mm.
they were Jewish. And it seems to
Yeah.
always pinch the Jewish population, although others as
Yeah.
well. But
Well, it's just the
so now,
othering. Yeah.
yeah, it's just amazing, just the different
Yeah.
times that we have been, and actually we were dealing with it in the first Trump administration here in the United States with alternative facts, and my ignorance is just as good as your intelligence or something like that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. It's
yeah,
crazy. I
it
agree,
is.
Allie. And I was reading somewhere that some people argue, sociologists argue that this kind of anti-othering happened when the original colonists, the pilgrims, the religious pilgrims came
Yeah,
over because they were othered out, argue from their viewpoint, out of where they were from originally, all
right.
over Europe and the UK or wherever they were from, and then they came over and made the colonies, and then that kind of those attitudes have been really foundational and fundamental to the American society and
Yes.
way of thinking over time, which I thought was really
Oh my
interesting. The
God, yes.
Puritans, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and it
yeah.
extended in waves of people that came, say, from Ireland, and everybody was on a, well, let's see, the Irish are the worst. And then, they had a
Oh,
list. They had a
all of it.
list of othering. Yeah. You're the
Well,
other.
yeah.
You don't conform. You're a drinker. You're stupid. Whatever it was. Whatever it
Yep.
was. Yeah.
They don't want
Yeah.
your type here.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, and I don't know that a lot of people understand. Oh, I remember hearing about this, when I was in college, and I was thinking I'd never heard of that before. That people other the other,
Mm.
and the gaslighting is amazing. The other thing that they do is the whataboutism.
Yes. Yes.
Why don't you tell us about
How's
what
that
you
in?
found out of that? Yeah, yeah.
Well, whataboutism is a way. Okay, so foundational to all this, everyone, is something called critical thinking, and underneath that is logic,
Mhm.
argumentation, and reasoning. And argumentation doesn't mean although
Right.
it's quite popular, like like two dogs fighting. It's not that at
Yeah.
all. It's a discussion and trying to understand through questioning.
Yeah.
That's what critical thinking is, right? And
Sure.
then you can
Sure.
consider an idea, or you can take it on board, you can walk away from it, whatever. So
Mhm.
whataboutism is a discussion tactic to reroute the conversation into your opinion.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
that's the way I understand it. Am I right, Ellie?
Yes,
So
absolutely right. Yes.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
so I've done it before.
I think we've all done it.
I think we all
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Have done it. I
Oh, sure.
think the first step is to acknowledge it and be
Right.
aware.
Be aware of
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Mm,
No, I remember writing
yeah.
something about George Bush, I think, and
Yeah.
talking about it on Facebook. Well, what about
Mm,
when Obama did this? What about? And then I'm like,
mhm.
what about this? So people do what about all the time, unless they
Yeah.
recognize it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And then on top of that, okay, aided by media, then you get the
Hmm.
visual message as well. So
True.
there was something, for example, in the Reagan era, they called him the Teflon president because, like a Teflon pan, everything would
Yeah.
slide off of him and
Slide
then
off
would
his back.
stick because he would get, like, for example, he would cut all this special needs funding, yet on the
Mhm.
same day open a special needs unit in a hospital. So the optics were, hey, he's doing a great job. He's opening up a wing, but then
Right.
billions of dollars just dropped out of all that help for all those
Yep.
people.
Yep.
so
Absolutely.
so
Yep.
so
Yep.
so to go back to it, the way people think and their arguments and whatnot, plus the optics, just create kind of a storm, a crazy storm, and confuse people.
Uh-huh.
So it's
Keep them
really important.
confused, and then they'll,
Yeah,
yeah, keep, or
yeah.
I don't
Chaos.
know, it's the same thing that's going on with this education department right now.
Yeah.
Let's get rid of all this, and yet we're still gonna fight with colleges for for funding, but we're gonna make a woman the head of the education department, but we're gonna get rid of the education department.
Yeah. So what's she gonna do there? She's just symbolic and Has nothing to do.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's just a riot that she's just a wrestler lady. She promotes wrestling.
That's what I heard about. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What are her qualifications?
Oh, none. And then I heard today that he also is he promoted a 22-year-old young man who was a gardener, and then he was a cashier at a grocery store to be the terrorism person.
Yeah, a 22-year-old counterterrorism expert.
Yeah, expert. Yeah. And it's just if it wasn't so stupid, it would be a real good comedy. It really would.
I mean, well, that's the whole thing. I mean, but this is what's so frightening. These are real people in real positions of significant power. That scares me.
Very true. That's very true. So let me go ahead. Ann and I are going to talk. We did a little bit of this research. We got 2 quotes from Isaac Asimov. And you may know Isaac Asimov as a science fiction writer, because that was really what he is well known for. But he also was an intellectual. But if you're anti-intellectual, you distrust and dislike intellectuals. Anything in the arts, critical thinking, belief that educated people are out of touch with everyday life, so politics, education, and public discourse, it is a hostility and a mistrust of intellect, and it's expressed as the deprecation of education and philosophy and the dismissal of art, literature, history, and science as impractical, politically motivated, and even contemptible.
That is such an amazing quote, and really a lot to unpack in that.
It really is. Yeah. And look at the Kennedy Center is a primary example.
Yeah.
He took over the Kennedy Center and made himself the head of the Kennedy Center, and nobody wants to go there anymore because creativity is going to be stifled. And let's keep the thumb right down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But isn't creativity one of the, I mean, we've seen over and heard stories, anecdotal stories from scientists that, they were out fishing and then they solved this genetic problem, or, doing something else and they were in a happy space, or they were, somebody was creating some art and then all of a sudden this landed in their minds. It's just a real.
That's right. That's right.
Well,
not only that, but it's culture. It's I remember when I was trying to find a place to live, I said, I don't have to live in a city, but I have to have the ability to drive to or go to something cultural. That's what I would like to do.
Yeah.
But I didn't grow up this way. My parents were not college educated. My brother, I was the only one in the family that was college educated, but they did instill intelligence that's there. Yeah,
exactly. Which is great, but that, I think, foundational and fundamental to intelligence or intellectualism or whatever is curiosity.
Oh yeah.
I think curiosity is not a bad thing. I think it's just hey, let me just go learn. Let's go learn something. Heck, if our way back ancient ancestors didn't figure out what a wheel was, think about where we'd be now.
Well, that's true. But that also keeps your brain functioning well. You stay curious, you become, and I know it's only temporary, play love. And you did, I don't know that I would have seen it coming either had I not thought afterwards. And once it happened, oh yes, invading the Kennedy Center makes perfect sense, because we don't want anybody to, and actually they had what was it? The redheaded guy, Conan O'Brien was roasted there, and on Netflix they had it, and it was so funny. They were making fun of everything. They were making fun of it because that would probably be the last time they'll go there.
Yeah,
we won't let anybody go there that does that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. Anyway,
if I may, I'd like to read my quote that he said. Isaac Asimov said, his quote was, "When stupidity is considered patriotism, it is unsafe to be intelligent."
It is. I agree with that. Mm-hmm.
Well, and it's really interesting reading about that, because somehow in the mix, this whole pitching to the average person and the normal person is the othering, and I don't understand how normal people are separate from intelligent people because we're all people. I mean, it's just to
Yeah.
me a flawed argument, but I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. No, everybody's got expertise. I don't sit around and say, well, this person only does this and I'm more intelligent. That's not what intelligent people do. They recognize that all of us have contributions and we're not trying to one up anybody,
yeah,
it's just,
exactly.
yeah, it's just that it's always the ones who can, I don't know, they can tell other people what's really going on that they're afraid of,
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And
Yeah.
what's interesting too, so, anti-intellectualism. So let's say maybe the flat earthers or, the
Hmm.
people that don't think the climate's changing. The
Yeah.
whole poo-pooing of the science community, and the evidence they've come up with, and
Hmm.
and just that's what frightens me because that has lasting impact on humanity and societies.
It does.
And science is not a feeling.
No, it's not. Yeah. It's like
It's not.
RFK, sorry, the man doesn't have any understanding of health and human services. He's not a
Yeah.
man, you know. He might be good at what he does, but he's not good at that. And
Well,
so,
that's what I
yeah.
don't understand why
Uh-huh.
a good example was what happened in the previous 45
Mhm.
administration, what happened during COVID and how
Yeah.
it became politicized. And that
Yes,
was
it is.
just facts and science.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and even today it's dangerous to talk about that because people will instantly go for your neck and the throat,
They will.
It's
No,
like,
they will. You're
but
right. Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
even just the mere act of wearing a mask to protect yourself became a political statement, which is weird
Yes.
to me. It's you're looking after your health and taking care of everybody else by wearing that. So,
Yeah.
anyway,
They
that's just
wouldn't
my
they wouldn't
opinion.
wear it then, but now they wear it when they're pulling out their immigrants or doing ICE raids. They all have them on. Yeah,
Oh.
I know. Yeah, just
Mm.
horrendous. Yeah, just horrendous. Yeah, I know.
That's really frightening to me that
It is. It is.
so we are witnesses to it, like many people in this community and other channels are saying, it's going to get worse before it gets better. But what's interesting to me is what's happened. Like you've got two diametrically opposed universities and how they responded to the current administration. And
Right.
one's Columbia and one's Harvard, and in the media and how
Yep.
they dealt with what they're dealing with. And
Yep.
it's just I'm eating my popcorn and kind of shivering in fear because you guys, this has worldwide implications.
Of course
Other
it does.
universities, other governments, we're watching it here. Our government here in New Zealand, because at the universities, we do things with America. That's what we do.
Hmm.
It's all the academic community is a worldwide community, right?
Right.
So to be able to conduct business with the U.S. government and any kind of funding with them, we actually have to adhere to the United States rules about DEI and all that kind of stuff, which is
Uh-huh.
in direct violation of how the university want to do their work. So they're perplexed as to how to. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and I think people are thinking, you know what? If I'm a real smart intellectual and I'm looking at what Harvard's doing, why would I want to go there, from another country? Why would I
Right.
want to go there if I'm not going to finish my degree and I'm being a lifetime's worth of debt just to have that name on my resume or
Right.
CV? You know,
Absolutely.
um, um,
Yeah.
and to add to the chaos of education, you've got artificial intelligence too.
Oh,
You've got yeah, so that
yeah.
so that the whole situation,
Hmm.
and yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that's a scary thing for me. I was telling Dr.
yes.
Amy that my son-in-law works for Microsoft, and they laid off 1,500 people a couple of weeks ago, and he was sweating it.
Gosh.
And then this week they laid
Mhm.
off another 300 people, and they're clearing the decks because their plan is to focus just on AI because AI is everything. Well, there are good
Yeah.
things AI can do, but
Yeah.
they're going to start replacing people and yeah,
Well, I
it's
can
frightening.
They've got a logic to what they're thinking, but we need to understand what that is. And the other thing is too, you got saying AI is like saying multimedia. Well, what do you mean? Or like blue, and you got 20 million different shades of blue. How are you going to tell what blue is, right?
Right.
That's what
Yeah.
artificial intelligence is. It's grown so much so quickly that
Yes.
for what you need and use, you need to really deep dive and understand how that thing is learning, what the data is it's pulling from, how it impacts what you're doing. Let's see. Oh my gosh. Oh, no
I'm
butterfly.
so glad that he has a new job. That's encouraging, because if my son-in-law ends up, my daughter's just been sweating bullets. She really has. Yeah. Congratulations to him. Sometimes losing a job is a good thing, but it's hard to see that when you're going through it. Yeah.
Yeah, it is butterfly. And I actually was telling Aley, I mean, there's a few of us in my team that are really, we're asked to help support people across the university. And so we've been deep diving into it. And we were participating in a workshop about developing AI agents, which is another conversation. But just, Google it up and you can, it's a little mini program that using words that you're training AI system to do to kind of help you do things, right?
Good.
So
Yeah.
anyway, and he was using an example of, hey, I'm designing this little mini program to create courses and to do exam design and to do all this stuff. And I'm thinking, well, there's a big part of teacher's work that goes, and that's my job. So, not all of my job, but okay, I've got about 2 years left in my tenure. And I'm thinking, I'm not old enough for retirement. What am I going to do now? But I'm also kind of that age where I'm challenging to be hireable, right? Even though I've got all this experience and stuff. So, what do I do? So I've been thinking a lot about that for my plan B.
I understand. As a matter of fact, the other day I wrote something on Facebook that said, if you're 65 and you're thinking about retiring, or around that time, think just maybe it might be smart to think about waiting a little bit longer to see how things all turn out, because it's harder to find a job at 65 than to keep the one you. Yeah. And who wants to do that? Nobody wants to.
Exactly. And the thing is, companies, I think, are inherently designed for the really young ones that come out of university, and then the executive ones, and then the experienced ones are like, I've seen that, been that. I'm not playing that game. Just trying to hang on, kind of thing. So there's I was following this person on Instagram, and she's an executive recruiter and real famous person. And she said, there's a way to reframe that experience. You've got the experience like a startup would want, or you could do consultancy or do an education and just create your own gig, So there are different ways to think about it, So I'm just trying to learn, because I'm curious, right? I'm going to learn as much as I can and just figure out what makes most sense for plan B, whatever that is, just to have it in my pocket in case, because luck favors the prepared, right?
You have to be careful.
Luck
You do.
favors the prepared. Yeah.
It
So,
does.
I mean, I don't want to go anywhere. I'm happy where I am, but
sure. But you never know.
stuff happens. Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to add in this. Oh, go ahead and say hello to anybody that's here.
Hey, everybody. I just want to say hey, and thank you so much for coming. I'm so grateful to see you all. Yeah.
So Isaac Asimov wrote this, and it has the date, 1960. Okay. This is how long ago he said this. There's a cult of ignorance in the United States, and there has always been. The strain of anti-intellectualism has been a constant thread winding its way through our political and cultural life, nurtured by the false notion that democracy means that my ignorance is just as good as your knowledge. And that is what we see still to this day. Oops.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so, I think it's pretty spot on, but I also want to say that, remember, being a critical thinker doesn't mean being a jerk.
Right.
And not cancel culturing people, right?
Right. No. Well, it has to do also with, I don't know if you've read Growth and Fixed Mindset, but she's got some really good good things about that. And it doesn't make you intellectual or not. It's just, are you more open-minded or closed-minded to things? And, would you like to shift that? And, would that work for you? And there's nothing wrong with that. But there is something wrong with that when people are saying, make America great again. Okay, when was it great? Like, what time period do you want to go back to where it was really, really great? They don't know. Well, it was okay, a while ago,
There's so many implications with that statement too.
Yeah, there really are.
That are not necessarily positive. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I've got some interesting points here I'd like to make. Aley,
Good.
if I may
Yeah.
just take a moment.
Yes,
It's
please.
I've got some notes here that I've kind of looked at. Why is anti-intellectualism dangerous? It erodes trust in experts. It undermines
Mhm.
education and critical thinking, which we've talked about. It breeds conspiracy thinking.
Oh, do you think?
Well, we're watching that live
Oh,
in our
yeah.
lives right
Oh,
now.
yeah. Yeah.
Weakens democracy because how do people make really informed choices without thinking about them? And
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
then also the social media that people kind of get into their tunnel view with can
Yes.
really it just logic goes out the
Real and what's
window.
not real, because
Yeah.
now we have images that may not be real,
Yeah.
so.
And a knock-on effect, or that's a Kiwi word, but that just means something else that because all these things happen is it impacts public health and safety. And we've seen that,
Yep,
with the pandemic
definitely.
and other things.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the measles are back, things like that.
Yeah. So,
Because don't you
so
wanna bring back something long gone? I do.
gosh, I hope something like polio doesn't come back. Can you imagine? Oh my
That
gosh.
wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, that's not good.
Entertainment purposes only.
This is only everybody, but the whole point is, and all of you don't take what we say to heart.
Do your
As
own research.
just do
Yeah,
your
yeah,
research
right.
and at least get 3 different sources and compare them, and then based on
Mhm.
that, think
Yeah,
about it and what
yeah,
resonates.
yeah, yeah,
This is all entertainment purposes only. But what from all those previous points in history, in the
yeah.
40s, you know who that
Mhm.
was, and
Yep,
also what happened in Russia, kind of, and
yep,
different times. Usually, the leader has some of these traits. Okay, dismissal of expertise.
yep.
Think about it. The leader. Scorn of higher education and academics.
Mhm.
Promotion of alternative facts. Sorry, alternative facts, that's an oxymoron,
It is an
okay? Which means
oxymoron.
it
Yeah,
doesn't make sense.
right, right.
But yeah, truth, there you go, play. Anti-science policies and rhetoric and appeal to emotion over reason. So
Oh my
anyway.
god! Get people stirred up. Yeah,
But
yeah.
but step outside. I mean, it's really hard too because part of the strategy is to slam people with so many things constantly that people are just like
Over that's what he's doing. Exactly
chaos.
what yeah,
And how do
yeah,
you even make sense of that? So, make sure you take time outs for yourself. Make
yeah.
sure you, even social media hiatus. I had to
Oh, yeah.
have a lot of that in the last 6 months. And it's been a wonderful thing. But, but the positives here, guys, there's positives. Um,
Okay.
we get to model critical thinking and creativity and being curious.
Yes.
We can defend and humanize experience. I think that's the other thing because I think intellectuals were like the white ivory tower, in the
Oh, I know
universities.
this. Yeah,
And excuse
yeah,
me, and gentlemen that are here or women,
yeah,
it used to be an old guy smoking a pipe, reading his books,
right.
and not seemingly
You couldn't
contributing
have a
to society.
conversation with them because they were too much in
Yeah,
their head. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah,
not that's not it,
right,
right? It's like,
right,
how can I help you be successful in the job that you get out of after
right.
having had your education,
Because
right?
I'm the first person to say, not
Yeah.
everybody needs to go to college. There's other jobs, there's other things
Yeah.
people can
Oh,
learn.
I
Yeah,
mean, in New
yeah.
Zealand, if you're a citizen, you get 2 years of tuition free for vocational education.
Oh,
That's
that's
just a
wonderful.
need here. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
who heard of
yeah,
free education? I mean, that was a 60s thing. for a lot of
Right.
countries, but then now it's okay. So the other things that we can do is listen without being without condescension, not being looking down at people,
Yep.
and support education, especially in knowing about governments and how they work, and media
Mhm.
literacy. That's important. All kinds of
Yes.
media, stuff
Yep.
on news, TV, social, all types of
Read
media. It's
books,
really
read
important.
articles.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
And challenge misinformation if you feel safe enough to. But if you don't. It's not worth. It's
Right.
not worth it. Personal safety. Um,
Right.
and then build relationships and collaborations with those that might be, because apparently with all this toxic masculinity that's happening and playing out in the last week or so,
Mhm.
forgive me, other, it doesn't mean everybody, but you know what I'm
Right.
referring to, people here, right?
Yes. Yes.
The
Mhm.
discussions and particular applications, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Anyway, um, but challenge. But you can actually form alliances. So some of those people that have been watching this stuff play out are now realizing, you know what, we've not been talked to directly. We aren't being looked after. Their alliances. So
Yes.
now they're coming over to kind of thinking, oh my gosh, we've had the pulled over our eyes for a long time. And they're
Yeah.
they're kind of seeing the light, some of those people. So you know what? Instead of saying, we told you so, or nah, 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 you know what? Say welcome, what would
Yeah.
you like to know?
What would you
What
like
can
to
we
know?
do to help you
Yeah. Yep.
understand where
Absolutely.
we're coming from?
Yeah.
And that's all you have to do.
Mhm.
And also understand this is a super slow process. It's not an overnight thing. It took a long time. You know that you've heard of
Yeah.
that saying when you've got your your pot boiling and you throw a frog in it, he's going to jump out. But if you put the frog in the pot and he just sits there and it's cold and it
Slow
blows it,
boil. Yeah.
yeah, and then they don't know any better. So that's what has happened over. Well, we know there's how many election
Right.
cycles the U.S. has been through to
Yeah.
have that person back. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yep.
but
Wow.
these are just things to consider, everybody, and
Oh,
really,
yeah.
yeah, it's a
Um,
tough one.
One
Mm.
of the things I think that I didn't realize when I was going through it and getting a degree in humanities first, which was my first master's degree, was that many people find it impractical because there aren't, quote, humanities jobs, although there really are. One of the things you learn when you learn the humanities is how to interact with other people, to talk about culture, to talk about history, to talk about philosophy,
That's
and
great.
we have to talk to people no matter what job we have. But I've been denigrated before as being one of those, although I do also have a master's in English now. But
Mm.
and also, you have a degree in humanities? Can I have fries with that? You get that kind of
Yeah,
denigration as well. And not everybody is working on a degree that I don't know. It just is upsetting to me because when the STEM thing came out, I thought it was wonderful. I thought we did
mm.
need to have a lot more scientific jobs that were
Yes,
coming out. But they cut all the humanities classes out of the STEM classes that you had to take of all the
yeah,
classes. They said, well, you don't need this anymore. And yes, you
yeah,
do, because there's something about being human that's important to also working in the science industry. So sometimes elitists do it to themselves. I'm gonna throw that in. They
yeah,
they
yeah, for
critical.
sure.
Yeah, yeah.
I agree
So
completely. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, yeah. We have been fooled many times.
Yeah.
One of the things that recently happened was this ridiculous, big, beautiful bill, which is a big monstrosity of shit. But um, the fact that most of the Congress, after it didn't go directly into the Senate, said, "Oh, that isn't in there." And then were asked, "Did you read it?" No, I didn't read it. They don't read. Many of them don't read. And you got to read. I mean, and he doesn't get any. He doesn't want to hear any. What is it? Weekly or daily informational things about what's going on. That's like napalm. If you don't if you don't do that, you're really backing yourself up into a wall.
Into a corner. Yeah, I agree completely. Yeah. There's a statement here. I can't see. My mouse isn't working. Oh, here it is. Play, live, remember. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really interesting point. You look, you've got to try to play this stuff. This stuff's here and it's going to be moving forward. It's not it is scary because fear is unknown, right? So so what you need to do is start educating yourself about it, and there's a lot of good resources. Just search them on the internet, if you can. Or I'm no doubt Aley and I have discussed that we want to talk about some of this stuff, so we're happy to talk to you about it. I've done a lot of research in it. It's I've learned a lot
more
because
than I've done.
Well, I have to because I've got to be able to advise people how to use it for their
I understand.
courses. And the other thing is, how can I stay on top of this stuff and be like considered helpful and informative, right? So, and there are heaps of other AI tools out there. Play, live, remember, heaps, tons and tons. And those are large language models, which are programs that teach you, were trained on how to understand the sequencing of a question, like really sophisticated mathematics behind all this stuff and like crazy. Like all computer things, they reduce it to, well, they don't reduce it. They have very complex formulas but basically you can type in a question or a very sophisticated series of questions and it will give you a response. And remember, it's based off of data that they ripped from the internet without checking with the authors. So for Aley and myself, we publish stuff and it's ripped off our data and it's learning for our data. So there's multiple class action lawsuits in Silicon Valley, where most of them are based, from all the 11 major AI creating companies. So there's more than 11 out there, by the way. And they're constantly changing, and it's really hard to stay on top of. But these class action lawsuits, it means like multiple people are suing them, one suit with multiple people represented in that suit to get their intellectual property back and be paid for their work.
Right.
Yeah. And I don't blame them. I mean, so it's
that's
called
a lot of
copyright heist.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a real disincentive for me to do research.
Sure.
I
understand. I do. Especially those people that do, this is another thing. I'm not sure if you've heard this yet, but now himself, who I don't, everybody knows who himself is. I'm not going to say his name. He is saying that any scientific papers now have to be approved.
Oh, I read that. Yeah. By which office? Which office is it?
His.
There's a certain, probably a new one that he's fabricated. I can't remember, but he has to prove them. So what does that mean? That doesn't mean peer review. Okay, so in academia, you submit an article, something that you've written on research and a particular methods. There's all this rigor that you go into your and research and data collection, all this kind of stuff. Usually more than just yourself, and then it's sent out to experts in the field for feedback before the publishing house even publishes it. He just removed that and said, only if I approve it.
Correct. Yes. So that also is going to make that information less valuable, number one, because you don't have peer review. And the whole thing is just but it's all the same thing. It's all because of anti-intellectualism. He doesn't want somebody to say, this will happen, especially in science, because he doesn't agree with any of that. Peer review doesn't work. Well, it does work, but not to his benefit, Tea Garden Chicken. So he would rather say, well, I don't like this, so I don't want, let's change this part of it or whatever. He's
trying to control the narrative, and we know it happened to the people that were academics and researchers in a particular, period of time in the 40s.
Yes, we do.
They were
came over here and actually worked for us at that time.
Yeah. I mean, they left Oh, for example, those three researchers at Harvard that left and went to Canada. They were
Oh,
scared
yes.
because of their
Timothy
academic
Snyder,
freedom.
brilliant,
Because they
brilliant.
what did they researched that period of time and authoritarianism
Yes,
and
they
all
did. They
these
have lots
things,
of
and
books out about it.
yeah,
Tyranny.
so
Yeah.
yep, they were scared for their personal safety. And what about their
Yeah.
families? And
Yeah.
so they
Yeah.
went to Safe Harbor. They went to Canada.
When I heard that, and it didn't take long, I think it was
Mm,
January, the three, Snyder and his wife and this other guy, they were Yale professors, and they all moved to Canada, University of
yeah.
Toronto.
Yep,
So
that's right.
they're covering their butts. They have to, because,
Well, it's
yeah.
they know the data deeper than probably anybody on this
Oh,
earth. I
probably.
mean,
I'm sure. I'm sure. Yeah.
other than the
That's their
people who
primary
lived it,
job.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Um,
And we already
yeah.
know that the anti-intellectualism works in a profound way in the media, because we see fixed news and all the others like it, and how and all of the it's pretty sad when a journalist from a news station becomes in charge of the Pentagon or our troops, or
Mm,
now we've got one judge whatever her name is, Pirro. She's now up there somewhere doing something as a federal judge or something. It's
yeah.
so ludicrous that you would if you read that, if we told you 5 years ago, 10 years ago, as psychics even, or card readers, that this is the way it would be, we would be laughed right out of here. I mean, it would be,
Yeah.
nobody would have ever believed any of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I agree
Mhm.
with that. Yeah, it's a tough
But
time. So
McCarthyism, there was one point where, and you probably have seen a clip of McCarthy, and he was trying to get rid of, actually, what he was trying to do was get rid of the Jewish people that were in the movie industry. But what he was doing was saying they were all communist. And so, of course,
that's
he's
right.
doing all kinds of things to bring them to trial and everything. And there was a man who said, Senator, I think, "Sir, have you no decency?" And I think everybody's probably seen that. Well,
Yeah.
now nobody even says that anymore.
No, because I don't even know if people remember in the media channels I mean,
Yeah.
just a study. It would be really fascinating to take like an old Dan Rather, Walter Cronkite.
Yeah.
These are famous reporters from the United States from a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you that are not originally from the States, you might know their names, may not. But anyway, just to compare something from a long time ago. I mean, journalism was a great career, but now I'm like these are personalities
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
and
Yeah. A lot of
opinion.
them are. Yeah.
Yeah, they're opinion pieces.
Yeah.
A lot of them,
Yep.
and it's really
Yep.
hard to discern where the facts are, and then you get the whataboutisms and
The
the
whataboutism.
really skewed
Yeah.
logic and
Yeah.
reasoning is different.
Well, one of the other things was that Mr. Adolf from years ago, he two things that I found out about him, which probably some of you already know. And the first thing is that he turned journalism on its, there wasn't going to be anything that was true in the journalism. But I did not know that he took 8,000 people and pardoned them out of jails, and they were all the same types of people that ours just pardoned out of the jail. And now those people today are filing millions and billions dollar lawsuit for false imprisonment. So, and the ones here in the United States, but he did that too. He got, yeah, it is all based in fear. It absolutely is.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
of course
agree.
it is. Yeah. And which is what anti-intellectualism is as well. It's just that let's target this group. And then once we get them targeted, we'll move over to this group and so on and so forth.
And
Yeah.
underneath it all is the worship of money and
Oh, and
the
power.
acquisition of it because
Yeah.
that equals power. So and that
Yeah.
whole combination.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Yeah.
very different because somehow they've tricked economies and just the average person that you need all this stuff. You need this to be da 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 da. You need to have, so
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
creating a system to keep people sick, and a system that doesn't allow people to get health care or not have homes,
Isn't
or a
it
system
sad? I
that,
mean, really,
you
we
know,
could really, yeah, have, oh, well,
yeah.
and then there's planned obsolescence. I don't know
Yes,
about you, but every
yeah,
day, I probably need a new computer every 3 years or so.
yeah. I need a new one. Actually,
Yeah. And
that.
that's
Yeah,
planned. Yeah, that's planned.
yep,
Hi, Garnet. Yeah, it's
yeah,
nice to see. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah,
But I
people
think,
feel
yeah,
manipulated.
and the resilience factor of people. I mean, New Zealand's kind of weird because we're out in the middle of the Pacific with the largest water border probably in the world, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and we're very geographically inconvenient. So that
That's
in the
good.
40s created this real independence. If something breaks, there aren't ships coming to save us. We got to fix it. We got to do all this ourselves. So that
Right.
kind of is foundational to society here. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
fixing things, and my arms caught come off, she'll be right. We'll just sew it back on. You'll be fine. This kind of like
Well, yeah,
never
and of course,
ceases to amaze me.
and Australia was a penal colony, so you had all those people, and they had to figure
Yeah.
out what to do between them and the Maoris.
The
It's
Maori.
like, give me a break. But we really started that way. We started out when we came over here from England, and we, look at all the people that and the people that pushed forward into the Wild West. Really, I mean,
Yeah, they were sold the dream that any person, and back then it was mainly men. Sorry,
right?
gentlemen here.
It always is.
Uh, you know, um,
Yeah,
but well, it just is what it was. But it
yeah,
was just like, hey, you can become an industrialist if you just work hard, and
right.
you don't have to know a lot, but just your pure work
Sold the
ethic. And
dream. Yeah, sold the dream.
And
That's
it's
right.
really who you know now. I mean, it's who you know. I mean, that's what the
True.
person in charge is doing, is who you know, and with their total disregard for qualifications and experience. So,
Yeah. Yep.
but that's just an observer, because I haven't lived. I mean, I watch
Yeah. You
in
watch.
shock and
Yeah.
horror sometimes, and awe and disbelief. But
Yeah.
I mean, we have our issues here too. So it's just a
Yeah.
smaller scale. There's not a lot of people here, so it's a way different experience. Yeah.
Well, and this is so
Mhm.
true, Anya. Create the problem, then a reaction and a solution. Get it all ready for folks who created the problem, and it's an advertising
Yep.
model, and it keeps going
Yeah.
around and on. You're right. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now
Yep.
things break on
Coal
purpose
mines.
right after the warranty expires. Yes. How
Yeah.
true is that? How true is that? That's amazing. Yes.
Yep. Unless you read the
So,
fine print. We had that happen with one of those fancy televisions that you can get these days. And we
mhm.
had a friend who used to work for a law firm say, "Oh, by the way, did you know about this law in New Zealand that says, it's a consumer law, that says even at the expiry date that you have a right to say, hey, you need to fix this." And I can't
Oh,
remember. There's a certain amount of years that goes
okay.
beyond the warranty date.
But they
Of the
don't tell
thing. And
anybody that.
no,
Yeah.
they don't tell you that. So and then they sell you an insurance policy on top of it, but you're actually
Right.
covered by this law. But I actually said, oh, by the way, did you know that they didn't even second question me? They sent over a repair guy and it got fixed. And I was like, thank God for my friend in the law.
Well,
That was
and
the one.
you're actually talking about the Nordstrom rule. Have you ever heard about the Nordstrom rule?
No.
Yes.
Wow,
So
what's that?
there was a man that came to Nordstrom with some tires, and he said, these are faulty tires, and I want my money back. And of course, Nordstrom sells no tires. They are clothing,
Yeah.
things like that. And
Yeah.
their policy was, if they believed they bought those tires at Nordstrom, then we would give them give them the
Wow.
money back. Yeah. I don't know if it's still the same way, but I remember hearing that many years ago.
Oh my
thinking,
gosh.
wow. I remember at
Yeah.
Sears, I would get the shoes, the boots that men would wear, and they were like
Oh,
$100. Back in the 70s, they were
I love the
$100.
Sears catalog. That was my favorite thing.
I
I
know
love
it
the
is.
Sears catalog.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Uh-huh. For
I
Christmas,
love
yeah.
those. Yeah.
But they would come in with their boots, and their boots would be like manure and all this stuff all over them. But there
Yeah.
was you could trade them in for new ones. Mhm.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's actually,
Yeah.
pushing the limits of
Yeah, certainly.
rules,
It's like those
obviously, but
tires.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
it's kind of crazy. Yeah.
But
So
that's the whole. Yeah.
I do want to refocus on how we
Mm.
can move back into.
Absolutely. Sorry.
I don't want to. It's depressing enough, everybody, and I
I
certainly
know.
don't want to leave you depressed. So we want to
Yeah.
turn around and come back and figure out what way we can before we leave.
Yeah.
Think better about what we can do. And I will say that I really truly believe that there are more people that are against what's going on than are for what's going on. I truly, but you don't hear about it as much because the media is controlling. They're worried about what the great leader thinks, and people are afraid to do anything, but we have to do something. It's up to us. It's like that New Zealand idea. Well, you lost your arm, let's sew it back on. We got to take care of ourselves. No, we really do. Yeah.
Yep. And it's whatever is acceptable to you and in a safe, appropriate way, right?
True. That's true.
What is that? And if that's just like, even if it's just kind of self-reflection and starting with that and looking at how you have these conversations with other people, if you have them, because I know at some places it's not even safe to have the conversations, but you're thinking about it. And then what can you do? Like all those things that I was talking about, humanize expertise and looking at the research or going out and finding out that research. Or some of you guys are talking about AI. You can even remember AI. There's a whole background of programming and a corpus of data, lots of databases that feed you that information. So it's not a point of singularity. Okay. It's not just one single source that you're getting from. So make sure you research where you're getting your resources from and how to inform yourself, or go participate in something and go find others like-minded people. And, if you need to go do, if that's your political leaning, to go to one of these marches, do that, whatever works for you.
Whatever works for you.
But do something, write letters to people, the appropriate representatives, whatever that is. Yeah.
And I love this because this is the way I feel. What are we here for? This is it. And I spiritually, I agree with you 100%. That's why I came back. That's why I'm here right now. And I think a lot of us are here right now for that reason. But for me, I don't think of myself as a very courageous person. But if there has to be a hill to die on, this is what it is for me. I can't let this take over if I can do something about it. So,
exactly.
It's one of those things. And the light can outshine the darkness. I agree with that so much. And that's what Marina does when she does her Shine Your Light every month. And we look at that and we don't think of the negative things. And I didn't want to bring negative to the, in fear to anybody, but I just thought to myself, this whole anti-intellectualism, it just struck me between the eyes. And then I'm dealing with young people who want to just cut and paste AI papers and not do any research. And so what's happening is we've got a whole bunch of that happening. We're telling older people to do the research, and a lot of them won't do it. But if we don't insist they do it for the young people, then they're going to be those old people, and everything's just going to be just a mess.
Right. We have for me, I've got a responsibility or a duty of care to make sure I'm giving my best to help the people that I work with, bring students that can't live in this new world, which it is, because it's changed drastically. And be participants in it, and the government and the democracy, and the type of government we have here, which is or also stateside, how, and that critical thinking and fostering it and modeling that thinking, for my children and my family, and and not, and recently I was surrounded by a lot of people that had very different political thinking than me. And I said, okay, this is who I am. I'm an academic. I've got liberal leanings. all this kind of stuff. This is who I am, but I'm open to understand your arguments and your thinking. And I left it like that. And it was really enlightening. But
That's
I
awesome.
don't have to, I can agree to disagree, right? But at least we were able to get, when we had those conversations, there was a lot of other crazy chaos going on in our family at the time anyway, but but you know, when we had those conversations, exactly. So
it
shortcuts.
is.
There are no real shortcuts.
And if my parents were still alive, you know, that we would have had conversations about things like this, but I never had that fervor in my mind to say I'm no better than anybody else, and I've done every kind of job that you could ever imagine. If you need me to shovel shit, I'll go do it. You know, if I'll do whatever needs to be done. So I don't have that thing that I really don't believe that I do. I just like sharing information, but I know there, like you said, there are some sitting up on up in the ivory towers, and yet I don't see that as much as I used to see that. I just don't see it that way.
I don't either. It's very universities are and higher,
very different.
Higher. Even the word higher means othering, right? It sounds like it's othering people, but it's not. It just means then the next level and the next step and whatever you want to do.
Correct. Right? No higher than you, just different. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
But the othering, and we did talk about that, and I'm glad we did, because othering and whataboutism are something that you should listen for and maybe run away from, I guess. You know, and I'm not saying that we can't, that we don't make mistakes, because we do. We just do. But if we
we're humans. We're humans. We're souls having a human experience. And we, for some, you know, if you believe that whole contract theory, you know, that we signed up for this time period. Sometimes I think, well, you know,
they told us we could have tacos. That's what it was. And not the kind in Washington.
Yeah, exactly. The food variety.
That's right. That's right. Well, this has been a very interesting conversation, and it's so wonderful to have you back to have it. And thank you to everybody who has hung in there with us and offered up some of your own thoughts. We really appreciate you very, very much. And and up our little hands and volunteered. There you go.
And I put in my channel if you guys want to come. I've resurrected some of my old content, so if you want to come and have a look, I do little snippets of videos, and it's just I talk about some research and spiritual, maybe some ways to think about things. It's Anyway, hey Mary, hey everybody, thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Have a beautiful rest of your day, and check out Anne's channel if you would. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.